What's up, YouTube? Welcome to another episode of the Undergrad Forum. Now in this video, I'm going to talk to you about the 4 things I think every med student should be doing to enhance their learning and make themselves efficient and cutting edge. As many of you know, if you've watched my YouTube channel or follow me on our Facebook page, I graduated from med school last week and I'm starting residency next week, so I got this little bit of gap time. And I spent a lot of this time thinking about what was med school like over the last 4 years. For me, 5 years because I got the MBA with it. But what did I learn in the beginning? What mistakes did I make? What did I get a good hold of early on? And what did I carry through and use throughout all the years of medical school and business school? You can use this learning notions really in any kind of field. And I broke them down into 4 things. The very first is going to be learn from exams. And that may be kind of odd, but I've been doing, I've been tutoring all throughout med school and I still tutor now. And the one thing I see that most incoming med students have problems with is that they want to endlessly read with some degree of focus, but no true intention. And that's where I think you can really fall behind, and that can hurt you. So when I've been, trying to teach incoming med students how to be more, higher performing or better, the very first thing I try to teach, and I notice that almost everyone does it wrong, is you have to learn from previous exams or learn from questions, not just reading. And it's very important to read, but how you do it's important, and I call this like the backwards method. I've talked about it with board exams and how to use Q banks, but it's the same concept. When you're studying for your basic science or clinical courses, you can just read, and hope you're getting all the high-yield information and hope you're ready for the exams and not have a lot of tests to yourself. Or you could do it backwards. You can read the lecture slides, you can kind of read and get the basics of what's going on, but then just attack questions. And the beauty of that is the questions are designed to highlight important or high-yield information. And that concept is core to doing well in med school. Don't be afraid, if you haven't read anything, to attack questions, get them wrong, read about it, and learn the important stuff. I think the trend I've noticed, the most with myself and working with other students, is that people don't want to get questions wrong. They feel horrible. They're like, oh no, I got that wrong. And I keep telling them, of course you got it wrong. You didn't really know it. We've just started questions. We're learning backwards. So don't be scared of getting questions wrong. It's expected with this technique, and it's what's going to make you better. So learning from exams is key number 1. And how do you get those? If you're studying for boards, you can use any Q bank you like. You can use Lecturio, you can use UWorld, USMLE World, Kaplan, First Aid Q bank, whatever you want. And if you're in clinical years and or in the basic science years, you can get any of those like BRS, High Yield, any of those kind of books, and there's questions always in the back. All those questions are not going to prepare you for boards. Don't expect every question to be like a step 1, step 2, or step 3 question. But the important thing is learn how to read questions, learn how to decipher what questions are asking you, be able to answer it correctly, and if you get it wrong, go learn from that question. What are they trying to get at? What's the important learning point? And that's going to guide your reading much more than just trying to read chapter after chapter in a recommended textbook. So lesson number 1, do questions, get them from previous exams if you have access to them, all those like med school, high yield, BRS, Quick Recall, I can't remember all the brands, all those books, they have questions in the back and they have efficient notes to read. Hit real Q banks on the boards. And the beauty of that is, tell yourself, I'm expecting to get almost all these questions wrong, and anything I get right, wow, I'm great. And then learn from every question you get wrong. And now you're doing the same amount of reading, and hopefully much more efficiently now. You're focused on your reading, and you're not just reading aimlessly. You're getting a bunch of high-yield information. You'll be very efficient. You'll do well on your exam. So that's lesson number 1. Number 2 is this thing called spaced repetition. Fancy name for don't cram. Obvious. Sometimes you can't help it. I'm going to give you that. Med school is part of life. There's a lot of things going on. You can't always be doing perfect spaced repetition. I'm going to argue that you can, because I have seen some of my classmates do it. They are machines. They are robots. I cannot do that. Let's be honest. Every now and then we've all crammed. That's part of life. But what you should do is obviously aim for not cramming all the time. If you're in a routine of cramming and cramming and cramming, and you just can't, keep your head above water, you're obviously doing something wrong. You should reach out and talk to someone, a counselor or a learning advisor at your school, or whoever you have access to say, hey, what am I doing wrong? Hopefully this video will give you some tips on what to do, but you shouldn't be always kind of chasing the tail here. You should always have a bit of a grasp. So spaced repetition, is the concept that you learn something, you read about it, you give yourself a bit of a break, a day or so, you read again about it, you quiz yourself on it a day later, or whatever else have you. So you're not just learning it in a very narrow time window, you're learning it over time. And I had a hard time with that in the beginning because I felt like there was no way to take everything I'm learning and allocate that over spaced repetition. And then I learned there totally is, because you don't have to know everything first pass. The beauty of this like spaced repetition or looking at the same material over like a time period as opposed to a narrow window is with every time you go over it, you can get the details as you go. So first pass, you can just get the general concepts of whatever you're reading about. Second pass, you can get some more detail. And third pass, you should hopefully get most of it. The beauty there is, in cramming, you just do one heavy pass and try to get everything. Good luck. It's like trying to catch a bunch of water with your hands. Things will leak. But with, looking at something over and over again and getting more detail as you go. So not just heavy detail every time, more detail as you go along. In the first pass, tell yourself, oh, it's okay, I'm getting some of it. Second pass, oh, I'm getting more, etc. And that's the beauty of it. So get like a calendar on, what to study every day, whether you're on, especially important on clinicals as opposed to basic science, and tell yourself, like, what am I going to be reviewing? And put like first pass, second pass, third pass to let yourself know how much detail am I going to go into when I'm looking at the material. So spaced repetition, and I think the key to that is to keep you from cramming is every time you're reading, don't try to get all the details. First pass, go gentle. Second pass, go heavier. Third pass, go the heaviest. And that way you're going over the same material more than once, and you're getting details as you go along more, and that's going to give yourself much better recall. Next thing is this thing called interlacing your learning. Fancy term, and I googled a lot of these terms because I was like, what am I doing and what are fancy words for it? So if you don't like the fancy words, ignore them. All I'm going to say for this is, or what it means in like easy terms, is don't just study like, okay, I got to study cardio today and I got to do some lung and I got GI at the end. Don't do like a ton of cardio, a ton of palm, and end the day with a ton of GI. Mix it up. That's what that whole interlacing means. So study some cards, study some palm, study some GI, study some cards, study some palm, GI. Mix it up. The beauty of that is people will argue that, oh no, when I'm in cards mode, I'm doing nothing but cards for hours and I'm in the zone. Don't get me out of it. And then I move on to lung, or I'm doing diabetes management, or I'm learning about how to do a Whipple. I want to do that, nothing else. That's fine. And the rationale there, I think, is supported in short-term learning, but they make the argument, and go yell at the NIH published articles on PubMed, not me, but they make the argument, and I think they're right, because I did it more accidentally, and there's research supporting it, so I just got lucky, that if you mix up your learning and kind of space it out, do some cards, do some palm, GI, and then mix it up as you learn, it helps you in the long term to recall the information much more than in the short. So you may have a short-term benefit if you study, content in big chunks, but if you have the capability and you have the foresight to say, I want more long-term gains, mix it up, interlace your learning. This honestly goes into just QBank style learning. I'll use this as a much more firm example. People and I've had to tutor this multiple times, so it's obviously enough students make this error. When you're studying sections on UWorld or QBank or Lecturio or whatever you're doing, don't just click cards and click like 46 questions. Always hit, give me everything, make it random, and then give me questions. That's the same concept of interlaced learning. You want to mix it up. You want to go from one topic to the next, not just one after the other, the same thing. If that's difficult for you to understand, talk to people about how they study for boards. Almost everyone, I'm going to say 99%, are probably going to say always do it in random, because that's how you learn, and that's how the real exam is. It's always going to be mixed up. That's how test questions are, and that's how patients are going to be in the hospital. You don't just see, they don't schedule 6 heart patients in the morning and then the lung. It's you get whatever you get. So interlaced learning, highly recommended. And the last thing, number 4, is associations. There is a company that, I mean, there's countless companies now, I think, that have created businesses on this concept of associations. And they can be like pictures that you draw or images you remember in your mind or voice associations, whatever it is. Whenever you're trying to just brute memorize something, the beauty of it is you can use associations to help you. So people who are professional memorizers, and yes, that's a thing, there are professional memorizing competitions where like even like young kids are like memorizing decks of cards and what cards after the other. And what they will tell you is how they do it is with associations. So they'll memorize a concept and associate it with something else. There are companies like Sketchy Micro, Picmonic, Real DZ or something, and what they do is, I mean, I'll promote Sketchy Micro because one of my friends created that company and it's a super cool company. What they do is like they try to teach you microbiology, and I think now they do a bunch of other stuff, and they like show you images and they sketch it out to help you learn and associate the concepts with images. But you don't have to do that with them. Obviously you can do it with whatever you want, but the idea there is whenever you're learning things, try to make associations, whether it's with someone's name or videos or images you have in your mind. It just makes learning easier, and that's like a core basic brute memorizing principle. Make associations, not just random mnemonics or things to memorize. Always works well. I mean, one silly one, like the influenza vaccine, 2 A's and a B. I have no idea how I remember that. Someone said that, I thought it was catchy. I remember the doctor who told me, so whenever someone says, hey, what types of influenza are in the vaccine, I know it's 2 type A's and a type B. I just remember the person who told it to me. Weird association, but it works. Whatever else, mnemonics are considered associations, so whatever works there. I'm going to leave that up to you because that's whatever creativity or how your brain works. For me, it's more auditory and like images I put in my head, but you could have movies or songs or whatever works for you. So I hope this video helped. 4 key principles that I think every med student should be doing to have high efficiency learning, and that's learn from tests. Don't be afraid. You're learning backwards. You're going to get a ton of questions wrong, but it's how you learn high yield information. Space out your learning so it's not all crammed. Interweave it so you're reading topics in different orders, and that's how it's spaced, and interlacing them you get better long-term memory than just short-term. And lastly, make associations, whether they're auditory, visual memory, drawing, whatever it works. And I think those are 4 fairly basic now that I probably tell them to you, but I'll tell you, when people come into med school straight out, or they get nervous in learning situations, they revert to poor strategy. Use these 4, please, as guiding principles. I hope they help you. As I always say in all my videos, this is my biased and never humble advice, so take it as you want. If you like it, try different pieces of this learning, see what works for you, see what you don't like, ask other people. This is just my viewpoint and my advice. I hope it helps you guys. Let me know if you have any questions down below in the comments. Like and join our Facebook page so you can join the community where we ask each other questions and give each other answers. And as always, guys, enjoy your studies.